Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A warm welcome to you all on this, the third night of Muharram, and the third night of our journey through Shahada. Tonight the question sharpens. We have spoken of what a witness is, and of the covenant he keeps. Now we ask about death itself. For not every death is the same, and one kind of death lights a path for everyone who comes after. Settle in, and gently, if the premiere has brought you here, a quick like helps these reflections travel to other hearts. Now let us begin. Bismillah. We start where we always start, with God's own words. Please turn to the verses chosen for tonight on those who are slain in the way of God and are not dead but living. Let us listen.
In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with God. Among them are those who have fulfilled their pledge, and among them are those who are still waiting, and they have never changed in the least. Quran Surah Al-Ahzab, the chapter of the Confederates, 33, verse 23.
Do not think of those slain in the way of God as dead. Rather, they are alive with their Lord, being provided for. Quran, Surah Al-Imran, the chapter of the family of Imran, 3, verse 169.
And now, a handful of couplets to carry the night's theme into the heart. Let them settle.
The longing is deep, the desire is true, to be slain such that even upon death we remain alive, provided by the Lord in the company of giants, giants who gave their all to fulfill their covenant with their master. For death came upon them, not as victims of unfair crime, but they walked towards it with knowledge, awake and conscious. Lives offered for a sacred cause, deaths that silenced oppression of the time. Deep is the longing to partake in the company of Khamenei, Nasrallah and Hajj Qasim. But deeper is the yearning to sit in the vicinity of the Master of Martyrs. O Husayn, you were slain in a manner so painful to bear, but your legacy is the archetype you've left till end of time. Any soul that aims to walk on your path must know, must understand, why. Are they awake, following not a crowd, a propaganda? Have they reflected, waited and chosen?
It is my honor to invite our speaker, Shaykh Shabbir Hassanally, to deliver tonight's sermon, 5 Kinds of Death, drawing on the great teacher Motahhari on what divides an ordinary death from the death that becomes a lamp for society. The sermon will lead, without pause, into the Maqtal. Tonight, the farewell of the heart, as Imam Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, takes his leave of Medina, and will end in supplication. Let us keep our stillness throughout. Please welcome Shaykh Shabbir Hassanally.
I think it's good we start with Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, maliki yawmiddin, iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een, ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim walad-dallin. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعن الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم منا جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر الأحد مني لزيارتكم منا لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah, and upon the souls who have gathered in your courtyard. Upon you, from us all, is the peace of God forever, for as long as we remain and as long as night and day endure. And may God never make this our last pledge to visit you. Peace be upon Husayn, and upon Ali, the son of Husayn, and upon the children of Husayn, and upon the companions of Husayn. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So 2 nights of foundation. On the first night, we recovered a word. We said martyr does not mean victim. It means witness. We returned to Abel, peace and blessings be upon him, the first witness in human history, the one our own Majlis had quietly set aside, and we read his words in the Quran from Surah Al-Ma'idah, the chapter of the table spread, 5th chapter of the Quran, verse 28, where Allah says, Abel said, if you stretch out your hand to kill me, I will not stretch out my hand to kill you. I fear God, the Lord of all creation. Just 2 sentences, a refusal and the reason for the refusal. The first act of witness in the history of the earth. On the second night, we went deeper, before Abel, before the body, before the first morning of the world. We stood at the primordial covenant, the moment the Quran describes in Surah Al-A'raf, the chapter of the heights, 7th chapter of the Quran, verse 172, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and when your Lord took from the children of Adam, from their loins, their descendants, and he made them bear witness over themselves, am I not your Lord? They said, yes, indeed, we bear witness. This, lest you should say on the day of resurrection, indeed we were unaware of this. Am I not your Lord? And every soul answered, yes, we bear witness. We trace the chain of the covenant through the prophets, from Abel through to Noah, Abraham, John the Baptist, Zachariah, Jesus, Hamza, as we approach the Ahlul Bayt, and of course Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, his family and righteous companions. And we saw that Karbala did not begin at Karbala. The chain of witness is older than Islam, older than all of the prophets, older than the children of Adam, older than the earth. It is the covenant God made with the soul before the body was made. Tonight we enter the Islamic theology of martyrdom itself, its definition, its categories, its precision. And we do so through the sharpest Shia theologian of the modern age on this particular subject, the martyred scholar Ayatollah Murtadha Motahhari, may God rest his pure soul. The Quran opens our path tonight with a verse from Surah Al-Imran, the chapter of the family of Imran, 3rd chapter of the Quran, verse 169, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not think of those slain in the way of God as dead. Rather, they are alive with their Lord being provided for. We should reflect on this verse very carefully because it is the theological spine of what we're going to be studying tonight. The Quran does not say, do not grieve for them. Rather, it says, do not think of them as being dead. The error the verse is correcting is not an error of emotion. It's an error of thinking, an error of category. And if we place Imam Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, in the wrong category, we will mourn him wrongly. We will mourn a victim instead of honoring a witness. And that, as Shaykh Motahhari teaches us this evening, is precisely the disease that has afflicted our pulpits for generations. Shaykh Motahhari told us on the first night of these sessions that the martyrs are the candles of society. On night 2, we trace the line of candles through our prophets. Tonight we examine the candle itself, what it's made of, why it burns the way that it does, and what distinguishes its light from every other kind of going out. Please give me a salawat and we move on to the first of the 3 sections, 5 ways to leave this world. Shaykh Motahhari does not begin with emotion. He begins with thought. He insists, and this is one of his most important contributions to the theology of martyrdom, that we cannot mourn well if we do not think well. A preacher who cannot distinguish between kinds of death will tell the wrong story about Imam al-Husayn. A mourner who cannot make the distinction will shed tears for the wrong reason. in his book, The Martyr, he puts the question very directly. He says, the references, as always, are in the write-up. Shaykh Motahhari says, we must answer the question, what is meant by a martyr? And what is martyrdom? And first of all, what is meant by death? How many kinds of death are there? That question, how many kinds of death are there, is the door that we walk through tonight. And Shaykh Motahhari answers it with a taxonomy. 5 kinds of death. 5 ways a human being can leave this world. 4 of them, in the language of the Quran, are death. 1 of them, however, is not. So first we look at natural death. Shaykh Motahhari writes, natural death is the death in which a person reaches the end of their life and dies. The life that reaches its appointed term, what the Quran calls ajal, the fixed moment, and ends. It is neither a matter of pride nor is it a matter of shame. It is the ordinary conclusion of the ordinary human lifespan. The soul returns to its Lord. The body returns to the earth. The account is settled by God. No theology of witness is needed to explain a natural death. It is, as Shaykh Motahhari says, simply the way that God has made the world. Every living thing reaches its term. The second kind, which is accidental death, Shaykh Motahhari writes, deaths that are premature, before the natural term, they may occur as a result of illness or of events that befall a person. Disease, disaster, the fall that was not anyone's fault. A life ended before its natural term, prematurely. Shaykh Motahhari calls this a matter of sorrow. The community mourns, the family grieves, but there is no agency in it. No one chose it. No one willed it. It is, theologically speaking, in theological terms, a test for the survivors, a call to patience, to reliance on God, to the acceptance that our plans are not God's plans. But it is not a testimony from the one who died. The accidental death does not carry a message. It carries silence. The third kind of death, criminal death. Shaykh Motahhari writes, death where the person is the innocent victim of a crime, killed due to another's malice, hatred, or greed. It is shocking and pitiable, but because the victim had no active, voluntary choice in the matter, it is not a matter of theological pride or glory. And the references for all these quotes from Shaykh Motahhari, of course, are in the write-up. So a person unjustly killed, a victim. And here we must pause, because this is the category that must be distinguished sharply and very precisely from the fifth that we will come to momentarily. In a criminal death, a person's life is taken from them against their will. The killer bears the sin. The victim bears the injustice. But, and this is the critical point that Shaykh Motahhari insists on, the victim has not given anything. Something rather has been taken from the victim. The agency belongs to the murderer, to the killer, not to the one who has been killed. The victim's death tells us about the criminal. It does not tell us about the victim. And to call the victim a witness, to use the word shaheed for someone whose life was taken without their consent and without their choice, is to use the word incorrectly. This matters because it is the mistake our own communities have made about Imam Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, unfortunately for generations. And we will return to this momentarily. But we must name what the modern world has added to this category. Forms of criminal death that our own century has tragically normalized. The unborn child whose life is ended before it had the chance to draw its first breath. An act that every Abrahamic faith has, for all of its history, understood as wrong and against the most defenseless human being imaginable. And the dying patient, the dying elderly patient, whose life is ended by what is known commonly as assisted suicide, euthanasia. It is dressed in the vocabulary of compassion, but in the judgment of every serious religious tradition, it is the collapse of the duty of care and the turning it into a convenience for the strong. Both of these are forms of criminal death. Both are in the third category. Our tradition does not look away from them, and neither will this series going forward. The fourth kind of death, self-murder. Shaykh Motahhari writes, self-murder, that a person destroys themselves. Of course, this is suicide, the reckless death of a person whose own negligence or despair ends them. Shaykh Motahhari names this as the gravest form of wasted life, because the killer and the victim are the same soul. And God has not given any of us ownership over our own lives that we can throw them away. The Quran is very direct about this. In Surah An-Nisa, the chapter of the women, full chapter of the Quran, verse number 29, Allah says, "Do not kill yourselves. Indeed, God is merciful with you. The life you carry was entrusted to you by God. To destroy it, whether in a single act of violence against yourself or in the slower violence of negligence, addiction, or self-abandonment, is to break a trust that we do not have the right to break." And this is the category that the modern world most frequently confuses with martyrdom. A suicide bomber is not a witness. A person who throws their life away for a cause they have not examined is not bearing a testimony. They have committed the fourth kind of death while claiming the fifth. And the community that celebrates them has compounded the tragedy. We will examine this confusion in much more detail when we get to session 9, the session that is on the counterfeits, the false claims to witness. For now, it's sufficient for us to name the line very clearly. Self-destruction is the diametric opposite of witness. And now the fifth kind, martyrdom, bearing witness with one's own life. Shaykh Motahhari writes, martyrdom is a special kind of death. Martyrdom is that a person parts with everything they have, sacrifices their life consciously, wakefully, with awareness. And here it is, the fifth kind. The one the Quran says is not death at all. And Shaykh Motahhari identifies its two inseparable elements with precision. Firstly, a life offered for a sacred cause. Not any cause, but a cause rooted in the covenant with God, in the worship of the One, in the defense of truth and justice as God has defined them. The cause must be sacred. If it is not, the death may be brave, it may be moving, it may be politically consequential, but it is not Shahada. It is not bearing witness to God. It is bearing witness to something less than God. And second, the offering is made consciously, with full awareness of the cost. The witness knows what is coming and he or she walks towards it. He does not stumble into it. He is not ambushed by it. He is not manipulated into it by others who care more about their own power than about his or her soul. He gives consciously, wakefully, and with awareness. These three words in Shaykh Motahhari's Farsi, agahane, bidarane, bashu'ur, are not synonyms placed there for emphasis. They are three distinct conditions. Agahane being with knowledge, aware, the witness knows the theology. He or she knows why they are standing where they are standing. Bidarane, awake. The witness is not drugged by any ideology. They're not numbed by propaganda. They are not being emotional. They're not swept along by the crowd. Their eyes are wide open. And bashu'ur, with consciousness. The witness has thought about it, has reflected, has weighed, and has chosen. If any of these three is absent, if a person does not know why, or is not awake to what is happening, or has not consciously chosen, then the death may be tragic, it may be unjust, it may be worthy of grief, but it is not in category 5. It is not what the Quran means when it says, Do not think of them as dead. Please give me a salawat and we move on to the next section, which is the living witness, Shaheed before the body falls.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And over here, we must pause to say something that Shaykh Motahhari's taxonomy implies, but it doesn't say in so many words. Something our own generation has been shown so clearly that we truly have no excuse for missing it. In Surah Al-Ahzab, the chapter of the Confederates, 33rd chapter of the Quran, verse number 23, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with God. Among them are those who have fulfilled their pledge, and among them are those who are still waiting. And they have never changed in the least." This is the verse that was the foundation of our session on the 40th anniversary of Imam Khamenei. Think about the architecture of this verse. It names two groups within one station: those who have fulfilled their pledge and those who are still waiting. And it seals them both with the same verdict. They have never changed. The one who has already given his life and the one who is still standing, still carrying the covenant, still walking toward the field. Both of these are witnesses. Both have been true to their covenant. The Quran does not wait for the body to fall before it calls them sadaqu, truthful, faithful, proven. The station is entered at the moment of the offering, not at the moment of death. If the fifth kind of death is defined by two conditions, a sacred cause and a conscious offering, then the witness does not begin at the moment of physical death. It begins at the moment of the offering. A person who has given their life to the cause of God, who walks into danger again and again and again with full knowledge and full consciousness, who carries the wounds of that choice on their body and does not turn back, that person is already a witness. They are already a shaheed. The body has not yet fallen, but the offering has already been made. The martyr, Imam Sayyid Ali Khamenei, may God rest his pure soul, understood this with a clarity that comes from having lived it. In 1981, barely 2 years after the victory of the Islamic Revolution, he was targeted in an assassination attempt. A bomb concealed in a tape recorder placed at a lectern where he was speaking in the Abu Dhar Mosque. The blast destroyed his right hand and severely damaged his right arm. He carried that wound for his remaining years. It never healed. He never regained the use of his hand. And it never changed his stance by even a single fraction of a degree. He stood where he stood, before the revolution, during the sacred defense, through the sanctions, through the threats, through every letter sent from every empire that asked for his hand or his head, and he did not change, he did not move. He was a living witness, a living shaheed, long before February of 2026. And he recognized the same station in others. Years before the martyrdom of Haj Qasim Soleimani, may God rest his pure soul, when Haj Qasim was still a living commander, still walking into the field, still coming home, Shaheed Sayyid Ali Khamenei addressed him directly and he said, and I'm quoting what Imam Khamenei said, the reference is all in the write-up. Imam Khamenei said, "You yourself, Mr. Soleimani, are a martyr in our eyes. You are a living martyr. Yes, you too are a martyr. You have attained martyrdom many times on the battlefield." And years later, visiting Kerman again, he expanded the point into a theological principle. Imam Khamenei said, "And those who went to the fronts of war and accepted the danger, who held their lives in the palms of their hands and spent all their strength, but God the Most High willed that they remain alive so that their blessings may continue for their country and for the world of Islam. Commander Soleimani too is one who gives of himself. He too is a martyr. These commanders are living martyrs, on condition that they continue this path." Think about that last point. On condition that they continue this path. The station of the living martyr is not a title that is given once and kept forever. It is a station that is maintained by continuing to walk the road. The moment a person stops, the moment they compromise, turn back, trade the covenant for comfort, they have left the station. The living witness is not someone who stood at one time. The living witness is someone who is still standing. And Imam Khamenei had said, in our view, you are a martyr. Notice he uses the present tense. While the man was still breathing, still commanding, still walking into the field, and you have attained martyrdom many times. Not once, but many times. Every time Haj Qasim walked into a battlefield with the consciousness of why he was there and the knowledge of what it might cost him, he was performing the act of Shahada. The physical death on the 3rd of January 2020 was the last of many martyrdoms. It was not the first. That is why the fifth kind of death is not really about death at all. It is about the state of having given. And that state can be entered and re-entered and re-entered while the heart is still beating. And we see this in our own time, in our own cities. The men and women who have stood publicly against the genocide in Palestine, who have spoken when silence was easier, who have marched when staying home was safer, who have refused to look away when looking away was the price of comfort. Some of them are now being prosecuted by some Western governments whose positions have been shaped unmistakably by the lobbying machinery of the very regime that is responsible for and is carrying out the genocide. These people have not been killed, but they have offered something: their careers, their reputations, their legal safety, their peace of mind, consciously, wakefully, with awareness, for a cause rooted in the covenant with God. They are living witnesses, and our tradition has a word for them. It is the same word. Imam Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, is not the third category. He is the fifth. And the difference between these 2 points is everything. When we mourn Imam al-Husayn as a victim, as a man who was unjustly killed, whose death was a tragedy inflicted on him by others, we are placing him in category 3. We are making him the same as any other innocent person killed by a tyrant. And that is not only historically inaccurate, it is, in Shaykh Motahhari's language, a betrayal of his witness. Because Imam Husayn was not killed. Imam Husayn gave. He walked towards Karbala with his eyes wide open. He told his companions on the night of Ashura, hours before the battle, that they could leave, that the enemy only wanted him, that the darkness would cover their departure and no one would blame them. And not one of them left. He prayed the noon prayer in the middle of the battlefield while arrows were falling all around him. He did not lose his life, he invested it. The difference between category 3 and category 5 is the difference between a person who has something taken from them and a person who gives something away. Between death and giving is everything. And that everything, the gap between victim and witness, is the space in which the whole theology of this series resides. And the Quran has told us plainly what to do with this distinction. And it said, Quran, Surah Al Imran, the chapter of the family of Imran, 3rd chapter of the Quran, verse 169, the verse we started with earlier, do not think of those slain in the way of God as dead. Rather, they are alive with their Lord being provided for. Do not think of them as dead. The verse is a command, a correction of the thinking, not of the feeling. You may weep, you should weep, but do not think of them as dead, because the one who gives is not dead. The one who gives is alive with their Lord being provided for. And if we place Imam Husayn in the 3rd category, if we think of him as a man who was killed, we have dishonored the very verse that we recite. Please give me a loud salawat and we move on to the next point, which is the candle of society.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So in the first two sessions, we quoted Shaykh Motahhari's candle metaphor. We quoted it briefly and we moved on. Tonight we stay with it because this metaphor is not just simple decoration. It's theological argument. Shaykh Motahhari writes, "The martyrs are the candles of society. They burn themselves out and illuminate society. If they do not shed their light, no one can shine." What does a candle do? It consumes itself. The wax melts. The wick burns down. The candle does not survive the light that it gives. And yet, and this is Shaykh Motahhari's point, the candle is not the victim of its own burning. It is the purpose of its own burning. The candle was made to give light. When it gives light, it is not being destroyed. Rather, it is being fulfilled. This is what distinguishes the witness from the victim. The victim is destroyed, yet the witness is fulfilled. The victim's death is a loss to the world. The witness's death is a gift to the world. And the metaphor goes further. Look what happens in a room when the candle is lit. Other people can see, other people can read, other people can find their way. The candle did not light the room for itself. It cannot see its own light. It lit the room for everyone else. This is the martyr's prerogative, which Shaykh Motahhari names with a sentence that should stay with us for the rest of this series and beyond. He writes, "We are indebted to the martyrs. They are not indebted to us." When we greet Imam Husayn and we say, "Peace be upon you," we are not doing him a favor. We are acknowledging a debt that we can never repay because he burnt so that we could see. Shaykh Motahhari writes, "The martyr has irrigated society with his blood, a candle that illuminates, blood that irrigates." Two metaphors for the same reality. The witness gives so that others may grow. And the community that receives the light, that grows in the irrigated soil, owes its growth to the one who gave. This is why the theology of witness is not a theology of death. It is a theology of life. The life that comes into the world when the candle burns, the crop that rises when the blood waters the earth. Now, there is a painful honesty in the fact that the man who wrote these words, the man who gave us the theology of the candle, was himself killed for writing them. Shaheed Ayatollah Murtadha Motahhari, may God rest his pure soul, was assassinated in Tehran on the 1st of May 1979, barely 3 months after the victory of the Islamic Revolution. The group that killed him, an organization calling itself Furqan, targeted precisely the scholars who were building the intellectual foundations of the new Islamic government and society. They killed the candle maker. Shaykh Motahhari, may God rest his pure soul, had spent a lifetime maintaining in the classroom, in the mosque, in his books and on the revolutionary committees of 1978 and 79 that Islam demanded thought, not merely obedience, clarity, not merely zeal. He had insisted that the theology of martyrdom must be understood, not merely felt. He had written the very taxonomy we are studying tonight, 5 kinds of death, and the 5th is the only one that is not death, because he knew that a community which cannot tell the difference between a victim and a witness will eventually stop producing either. And for this clarity, for this insistence that the word must mean what it means, he was shot in the head on a Tehran street. And yet, and this is the theology in action, his death did not extinguish his work, rather it amplified it. The book we're studying from tonight, it's called The Martyr. It's been translated into dozens of languages. It is studied in the houses of Qom and Najaf, in universities, in seminaries, in study circles, in communities like our own, in English, in this city, on this night. The candle was extinguished, and the light went further than the candle could ever have imagined. His assassination is the proof of the theology that he wrote. The ones who killed him thought they were putting out a light. What they did was plant a seed, and the seed has grown into a mighty forest. And we are standing in that forest tonight, reading by the very light that he gave. Please give me a salawat, and we move on to the next point, which is the beginning of a quest or talab.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.
But a candle does not ignite itself. Before the flame there is the wick, and before the wick the restless hands that shape it. For Haj Qasim, the shaping began not with a weapon, but with a question. We've already met Haj Qasim Soleimani, may God rest his pure soul, this evening. In the words of Imam Khamenei, may God rest his pure soul, who called him a living martyr while the man was still breathing, still commanding and still walking into the field. We've seen where the road led. Now we trace where it began. Not with a battlefield, not with a command, but with a question. A restlessness, a refusal to accept that the world was as broken as it looked. In the southeast of Iran, in a province called Kerman, in the years before the Islamic Revolution, a young man was growing up in a village called Qanat Malik. His family were not scholars. His father was a farmer, a man who worked with the soil, with water, not with books. There was no library on the corner. But there was something in the young man that would not sit still, a hunger that the village could not feed and that the regime of the Shah could not explain away. He was asking questions. Why is there so much injustice? Why do the powerful get to stay powerful? Why does no one stand up? His name was Qasim. The same Qasim who Imam Khomeini would one day look at and say, you are a martyr in our eyes, you are a living martyr. But between the boy in the village and the commander who was already shaheed before the missile attack, there is a road. And tonight, on the night Shaykh Motahhari's taxonomy gives us the vocabulary for what that road produces, we ask, where does it begin? It begins long before the death itself. It begins with a question. It begins with a refusal to stop asking. The Persian mystical tradition, the tradition that Shaykh Motahhari was steeped in, and that runs like an underground river throughout the whole of Shi'i thought, calls this first stage talab, the quest. The great Shaykh Farid ad-Din Attar of Naishapur, the 13th century poet and mystic who gave the Persian-speaking world one of its most alluring allegories of the soul's journey towards God, names it in his masterwork, The Conference of the Birds, as the first of 7 valleys the soul must cross before it reaches its Lord. Maulana Jalal ad-Din Rumi, the well-known Rumi, the poet-scholar of Konya, whose Masnavi has been called the Quran in the Persian tongue, and who drew his deepest inspiration from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, peace and blessings be upon them all, names the same restlessness in his own way. It is the soul that wakes up and cannot go back to sleep. It is Abel refusing to raise his hand, not because someone taught him not to, but because something inside him already knew. It is the fitra, the covenant we traced on the second session, stirring in the chest. We will return to Haj Qasim. His story will walk through the series and the stages the Persian mystics mapped. Talab, the quest tonight, then love, then knowledge, then witness. But tonight the lesson of Talab, or the quest, is simply this. The candle does not begin to burn on the day that it's lit. The wax was already forming. The wick was already being wound. And for Haj Qasim, as for Imam Husayn, as for Abel, the giving began long, long before the giving was visible. Please give me a loud salawat, and we move to the third and final point, the failure of the storytelling preacher.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So the taxonomy stands. 5 kinds of death, and the 5th is a gift, not a loss. And this brings us, with the full weight of the categories behind this, back to the critique we introduced in the first session. The critique that holds this entire series accountable. The critique that Shaykh Motahhari leveled at his own community, at his own preachers, at his own tradition, not because he didn't love them, but because he loved the truth more. Shaykh Motahhari writes, and the references are all in the write-up, most of the preachers who narrate the story of Karbala call Imam Husayn the master of martyrs, and yet they have little analytical insight into the question of martyrdom. They describe the events in such a way as though Imam al-Husayn lost his life in vain for nothing. Now we can hear this with the categories in front of us. What Shaykh Motahhari is saying is that these preachers, well-intentioned, often sincere, sometimes deeply moved by what they're telling, are describing a category 5 death as though it were a category 3. They are describing a gift as though it were a theft. They are describing the candle as though it had been accidentally knocked over and crushed. And the effect on the congregation is devastating. When the story is told as a tragedy inflicted upon Imam al-Husayn, rather than as a witness offered by Imam al-Husayn, the congregation mourns a victim. They feel sorrow. They feel anger at the injustice. But, and this is the important point, but they do not feel the obligation. Because a victim does not place an obligation upon you. A victim only places an obligation on the one who victimized the victim. But a witness who is given, places an obligation on everyone who receives the light. If you sit in a room that a candle has lit, you owe the candle. If you walk in a world that Imam Husayn's witness has illuminated, you owe Imam al-Husayn. And drawing from Shaykh Motahhari's critique, let us name 3 common errors, 3 ways the story is told wrongly, so that we can avoid them for the rest of this Muharram. The first error, reducing Imam Husayn to his suffering. The preacher who spends 40 minutes on the thirst, on the arrows, on the heat, on the blood, on the cries of the children, and 2 minutes on why Imam Husayn went to Karbala in the first place, this is a category 3 error. The narration centers the crime committed against Imam al-Husayn, not the testimony that Imam Husayn came to give. The result is a congregation that feels sadness, certainly, but does not know what this sadness is for. The suffering is real. The thirst was real. The arrows were real. The cries of the children were real. We do not deny any of it. And we will stand in the middle of it on the 10th night. But when the suffering becomes the whole of the story, we have lost the story. The suffering was the cost of the testimony. It was not the testimony itself. The testimony was the 12 words spoken in a hall in Medina. The words we will hear in tonight's Maqtal. And everything after those words was the world's response to a man who would not be moved. Of course, the words were, someone like me cannot pay allegiance to someone like him. The second error, marking the mourning at the end. The preacher who treats the tears as the destination. Shaykh Motahhari, may God rest his pure soul, was very explicit. The tears are sacred, but they are not the destination. They are the door. Shaykh Motahhari writes, and again, the references are all in the write-up. Shaykh Motahhari says, although Islam does not look favorably upon weeping for an ordinary deceased person, it desires that people weep for the martyr, because the martyr has created an epic, and weeping for the martyr means participating in his epic, harmonizing with his spirit, affirming his zeal, and moving with the wave he has set in motion. That last phrase again, moving with the wave he, the martyr, has set in motion. The tears are not the end. They are the entry into the wave. They are what carries you forward into the epic the martyr created, into the spirit the martyr left behind. But if the tears stop at the door, if the mourning never becomes movement, then we have wept without entering the wave. And a wave that no one else enters breaks on an empty shore. The Prophet Muhammad himself, peace and blessings be upon him, his family and righteous companions, wept for Imam Husayn before Imam Husayn was born, much as we traced in the previous session, the second session. The tears are prophetically endorsed, but the door they open leads to a question. And that question is, now that you have wept, what will you do? If the answer is nothing, I have wept and I will weep again next year, then the mourning has not completed its circuit. It has stayed at the door. And a door that stays shut is effectively a wall. The martyr Imam Khamenei, may God rest his pure soul, taught this for decades. He identified 3 elements in the movement of Imam al-Husayn and insisted that all 3 must be present in any gathering that claims to honor him. Imam Khamenei said, there are 3 elements in the movement of Abu Abdullah, peace and blessings be upon him. Abu Abdullah, of course, being Imam Husayn. The element of logic and intellect, the element of epic and honor, and the element of emotion. Merely paying attention to emotion and forgetting about the aspect of logic and intellect that is embedded in the event of Imam al-Husayn is a belittlement of the event. The mourning gatherings for Imam Husayn the mourning gathering for Imam Husayn is a gathering that must be a source of understanding and awareness, what we call ma'rifah. The reference, of course, is in the write-up. 3 elements: logic, epic, and emotion. Not 1, not 2, 3. And the mourning gathering, the Majlis, must be a source of ma'rifah, of understanding. He called this tabyin, clarification, and it was the subject of our entire Ashura series last year. The tears without understanding are an act of sympathy. The tears with understanding are an act of worship. Both are human, but only the second is shahada, is witness. Only the second is a continuation of the chain. And the third error, disconnecting Karbala from the rest of the year. The preacher who makes Muharram an island, 10 nights of intensity and then silence until next year. But if Imam Husayn's witness is category 5, if it is a conscious, ongoing gift to the world, then the lights do not turn off on the 11th of Muharram. The candle does not burn for 10 days and then go out. It burns permanently. The obligation it places on the living is permanent. The preacher who packs Karbala away on the shelf until next Muharram or until Shahr Ramadan or anything like this has reduced the candle to a seasonal decoration. Something we bring out once a year, we admire, we weep over, and then we box again and put away. The great exegete, jurist, teacher and scholar Ayatollah Jawadi Amali, may God protect him, has taught in his seminal work Hamaseh va Irfan, Epic and Mysticism, and in his lecture series titled The Blooming of Intellect in the Light of the Husseini Movement, that Karbala is not a historical event confined to the past. It is an ontological and existential reality. His own words. He says, and the references are in the write-up, Ashura is not merely a historical event confined to the past. It is a continuous ontological and existential reality. And in his well-known commentary, Tafsir Tasneem, he takes the point further. He says, if one lacks that elevated vision and thinks in fragmented, localized terms, one asks, why did Karbala happen? Why this severe tragedy? But if you perceive the expanse of absolute mercy and supreme divine wisdom, you see that Karbala in its proper place is haqq, truth or reality. Karbala in its place, indeed God willed to see you slain, is haqq. To us it is bitter, but within the total cosmic system, It is truth. Haq, truth, reality. Not a tragedy that happened once and khalas, ended. A truth embedded in the structure of existence, bitter to us, but haq in the total system God has made. And if it is haq, if it is a permanent ontological woven into the fabric of creation, then it cannot be confined to just 10 nights of a year. The same choice, the choice Imam Husayn made, is always being made by someone, somewhere, in some form. And every time we reduce it to a once-a-year commemoration, we have denied what the Quran has told us plainly. Again, Quran, Surah Al Imran, the chapter of the family of Imran, third chapter of the Quran, verse 169. Do not think of those slain in the way of God as dead. Rather, they are alive with their Lord being provided for. They are alive with their Lord. Not were alive once in the past, are alive. Present tense, now. So if we have heard Shaykh Motahhari correctly tonight, if the taxonomy has done its work, then we walk out of this hall, this call, this discussion, carrying something we did not carry in. We carry a test. 2 questions that we can apply to every death we hear called martyrdom, every claim to witness, every use of the word shaheed. Was the cause sacred, rooted in the covenant with God? And was the choice conscious, made with full awareness of the cost? If the answer to both is yes, we are looking at the 5th kind of death, which is the real life. We are looking at the candle. If the answer to either is no, we are looking at something else. Something that may well be tragic, may be honorable, may be deeply moving, but is not what the Quran means when it says, do not think of them as dead. We will apply this test in full when we come to session 9, God willing, the session on the counterfeits, the false witness claims, the false claims to witness. For now, let us carry it, and we carry one more thing. The knowledge that the 5th kind of death has already begun in the life that precedes it. The candle was being formed before it was lit. The wax was being poured, the wick was being wound. In Abel, it was the fitrah that refused to raise a hand. In the young Qasim from Kirman, it is the question that would not stop being asked. And in Imam Husayn, in the night of Medina, the walk to the governor's hall, the 12 words spoken quietly across a lamplit table. Tonight, we hear those 12 words, not in the battlefield, not yet, in a hall, in a city, at night. Please give me a loud salawat and we segue across to the Maqtal.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
I came to you for Abel. I came to you for the inherited tear. Tonight I come to you for a doorway, for one night in the city of my grandfather, for one hall, for one letter carried at speed from a court in the north, and for 12 words, 12 plain words given once in a quiet voice by my forefather Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, across the lamplit table of a governor who had not been prepared for what the night would bring him. My brothers, my sisters, there are nights in the life of a man that are worth the whole rest of his life. This was one of them. It was already Karbala. The field and the swords and the dust would wait 9 months and more. But the decision had already been taken in Medina at night in a hall with 12 words, and all the rest of the story was only the walking out of what had already been said. I was not there, but I remember. There was a city. It had been the city of my grandfather, the messenger of God. Peace and blessings be upon him, and upon his family, and upon his righteous companions. He had gone to his Lord, and his grave was in the city, and his grave was the heart of the city, and the streets did not know how to forget him. For 48 summers my forefather Husayn had lived there, the second son of my grandmother Sayyida Fatima, a man whose name the tongue of the city knew before it knew any other name. He lived in the house that had been his mother's house. He walked the streets his grandfather had walked. He was a grown man, and his hair was graying at the temples, and he was the grandson. Then came a summer when word rode in from the north. The old king, who had fought my forefather Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, and who had poisoned my forefather Hassan, peace and blessings be upon him, the elder brother, and who had held the throne 19 long years against the line of the messenger. The old king was dead, and his son had taken the throne. And the son was a man whose name does not deserve the weight of my tongue. I will name him once tonight, and only once, Yazid. A letter rode ahead of the grief, from the court in the north to the governor of the city of my grandfather. And the letter said one thing, only one. Go to the house of the grandson. Take from him, this very night, the oath of the new king, and if he will not give it, send back his head. The governor read the letter by lamplight. His name was Walid. He was not an evil man. He was a small man, set too close to a cruel business. He put down the letter. He sent for my forefather. It was late. My forefather Husayn came. Not alone. The house of the messenger did not send its sons alone into the halls of men who might kill them. He came with some of his own, young men with swords beneath their cloaks waiting at the door. Inside the hall, Walid stood pacing. Beside him sat another man, older. His name was Marwan. He had seen the killing of good men before this night, and it had not made him slower to counsel it. Walid read the letter aloud. When he had finished, he lifted his eyes to my forefather's face. My forefather Husayn was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. He said, "Mine is the house of the messenger of God. Mine is the house where the revelation came down. Mine is the house of the first prayer and the first witness. And the man in the north, the man whose name I have now given once, drinks what his Lord forbade him, takes the life his Lord made sacred, breaks in the open sun what was given to be kept. And this man in the north, now asks me, in the city of my grandfather, in the house of my mother, to place my hand in his as a sign of loyalty, and to stand before the people and say, this man is the inheritor of the messenger of God. Someone like me does not give his hand to someone like him." Marwan half rose from his seat. "Kill him now," he said. "Kill him in this hall. You will never have this chance again." Walid, the small man, refused. I will not stain my hands with the blood of the son of the messenger. My forefather Husayn rose, he walked out of the hall. His companions closed around him. They walked home through the same narrow streets. The lamps were the same lamps. The city was the same city. But every man in that small group knew, walking, that the night had changed the world. And the world did not know it yet. When my forefather reached his house, he did not sleep. The women of the household were already gathered. My aunt Sayyida Zainab, peace and blessings be upon her. My cousin Sayyida Sakina, peace and blessings be upon her, still so young. My cousin Sayyida Ruqayya, younger still. The wives and sisters and daughters of his blood. The men were gathered also. My forefather Abbas, the brother, peace and blessings be upon him, the one who would carry the water at Karbala. My forefather Ali, the elder, the son, peace and blessings be upon him, the one who would ride first into the field. The nephews, the companions. The house was full and the house was silent. My forefather told them what had happened in the hall. He told them the answer he had given. And he told them, plainly, without weight or drama, that before the sun came up, they would be leaving the city. No one objected. Not one. Before he went out, my forefather walked one last time to the grave of his grandfather. To my grandfather. He stood there in the dark. What he said, the old books have kept, and I will give you what the old books have kept without adding to it and without taking from it. He said, "Grandfather, this was your city. It was my mother's city. My father prayed in every corner of it. Tonight they have asked me to give my hand to a man you would not have given your greeting to. I will not do it. Tomorrow I leave. Pray for me." He wept at the grave, not the weeping of a man afraid, the weeping of a grandson saying goodbye to a grandfather whose city he would never see again. I was not there, but I remember. I remember the quiet of the courtyard around him. I remember the lamp held low by the one who accompanied him. I remember what the wind did with his cloak as he rose. I remember it because my grandfather remembers it. And we, who inherit from him, remember what he remembered. Before the first light of that morning, my forefather Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, walked out of the city of my grandfather. He took his household with him. His brother, his sons, his nephews, his sisters, his companions. He did not take an army because he was not going to fight. He was going to bear witness. 14 centuries and 6 years after that morning, on the third night of the month of Muharram in your year 1448. Listen to me say this clearly, for your sermon has said it and your tears have said it, and tonight I will say it too. road you call the road to Karbala did not begin on the road. It began in a hall with a letter with 12 words, and it has never stopped beginning. Someone like me does not give his hand to someone like him. That sentence was said once in Medina by my forefather Husayn in the 60th year of the Hijrah. It was said again last year in Tehran by my servant Ali Khamenei, peace and blessings be upon him, in the tongue of his century, to the Yazids of his century. And it cost him what it cost my forefather. The sentence is one sentence. The refusal is one refusal. And between the two mouths that spoke it stand 14 centuries and a line of witnesses so long that the pen cannot write every name on the roll, though the one behind the veils knows everyone. Peace be upon you, O my forefather Husayn. Peace and blessings be upon you, who stood in the hall, who gave the 12 words, who would not give your hand to the ones your grandfather would not have given his greeting to, and who walked out of the city of your grandfather with your hair going grey at the temples, and the sword of the God who made you under your cloak. Peace be upon you, O my grandfather Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon you and upon your family and upon your righteous companions, at whose grave the farewell was given and whose prayer accompanied the one who left. Peace be upon you, O my aunt Sayyida Zainab, who did not object. Peace be upon you, O my forefather Abbas, the brother, who did not object. Peace be upon you, O my forefather Ali, the son, the elder, who did not object. Peace be upon the whole silent house of that night, the women and the men, the young and the very young, who knew the answer the night had already given them and accepted it without one word of argument. Peace be upon you, O Shaheed Ayatollah Murtadha Motahhari. Peace and blessings be upon you, who wrote the theology of the gift and was given the gift to receive. Peace be upon you, O Ayatollah Beheshti, and your 70, a number my forefather Husayn knew by name and you inherited. Peace be upon the brother and sister Sada in Najaf. Peace and blessings be upon them, who spoke the 12 words in the tongue of their prison and were given the answer the prison gives. And peace be upon you, O my servant Ali Khamenei. Peace and blessings be upon you, who said in the tongue of February in the rooms of an empire what my forefather said in the tongue of an Arabian summer in the hall of a governor. Someone like me does not give allegiance to someone like him. You paid what he paid. You joined him in the chain. And the line of that one sentence runs through your throat now, as it ran through his, as it will run through every throat that refuses in every century that comes, until the permission is given, and the refusal becomes at last an acceptance of the one the heavens have appointed. Peace be upon the commanders of the caravan, Soleimani, Mughniye, Muhandis, Nasrallah. Peace and blessings be upon them all. Peace be upon the children of Minab and the children of Gaza, whose fathers said the 12 words in their own language before the bomb came down, and took the tongue that had said them. And may the distance of God's mercy, the long, eternal, unappealable distance, fall upon every hand that has ever written a letter like that letter, from the first hand to the last. The hand of Muawiyah who signed the order, the hand of the scribe who dipped the pen, the hand of the messenger who rode through the night to Medina. The hand of every empire that has, in every age since, signed a version of that same letter and sent it in a sealed envelope to the door of a good man who had given no cause for visit and asked for his hand or for his head. I was not there, but I remember. And I remain behind the veils until the permission is given, and the hearts are ready, and the 313 have gathered at the threshold. Until then, sleep with the taper still lit. Remember the 12 words. When the letter comes, and it comes one day or another to every life, know what your answer is before the messenger knocks. Tomorrow night we go to Kufa, where the next letter was sent, and the next answer was required. And a young man named Muslim, peace and blessings be upon him, will give it. Tonight, sleep. Where is your brother?
So now we have a supplication and then we finish. So, peace be upon Abel who testified first. Peace be upon the prophets who carried the covenant and wept. Peace be upon Shaykh Motahhari who gave us the light to see by. Peace be upon Husayn who gave. Peace be upon the Imam of our age who remembers. Peace be upon you all, upon your houses, upon the candle that burns tonight, the candle that is not a fate but a gift, and that will not be put out. O God, you told us, do not think of them as dead. You who made the fifth kind of death, the only one that is not death at all. You who created the candle and the wick and the match and the room, and who created the night so that the candle would have something to illuminate, we turn to you tonight on this third night of Muharram. And we have no Lord except you, and no refuge except at your door, and no teacher but the ones you sent to teach us. O God, we send our condolences and our congratulations tonight to your beloved Prophet. Peace and blessings be upon him, his family and righteous companions. Condolences for a grandson who would walk out of his city before dawn, who would stand at his grandfather's grave, weep and say goodbye, who would leave the streets his grandfather had walked and never return to them. And congratulations for a grandson who, when the letter came and the demand was made, did not hesitate for the time it takes to draw a breath. He said 12 words and walked out. And the road that began that night has never reached its end, because the one who walked it is alive with his Lord being provided for. And the road he opened is still open, and we are walking it tonight. O God, we send our peace and blessings to the martyred scholar Shaykh Ayatollah Murtadha Motahhari, the teacher who gave us the taxonomy, who sat in a classroom and said, how many kinds of death are there? And who would not let his students go home until they could answer, who loved the truth more than he loved the approval of the crowd, who was shot on a street in Tehran for the crime of clarity, and whose blood irrigated the very ground we are standing upon tonight. His candle was extinguished by the hand of a criminal. His light is brighter now than it was on the day that he was killed. We see by it tonight. We will see by it, God willing, tomorrow. And the ones who put it out are forgotten. But the books they tried to silence are in our hands, and we are reading them aloud. O God, we send our peace and blessings to Imam Husayn, the one who stood in the hall of Walid and spoke 12 words that contain the whole of the religion. Someone like me does not give allegiance to someone like him. The one who walked out of the city of his grandfather with the sword of God under his cloak. The one who left his mother's house, his grandfather's grave, the streets that knew his name, and did not look back, because the road ahead was the road you had laid, and the witness ahead was the witness you had asked for, and the candle was already lit. O God, O God, we send our peace and blessings to the women of his house, who heard the answer that night and did not object. Not one. Our Lady, said Zainab, peace and blessings be upon her, who knew what the road would cost, and she chose the road. To Our Lady, said Sakina, and to Our Lady, said Ruqayya, to the wives, the sisters, and the daughters, who packed what could be packed and left what could not be left, and what could not be left, and walked into the night beside the one who said what needed to be said. Their silence that night was its own kind of testimony, and we greet it. O God, we send our peace to the young man from Kerman, Haj Qasim Sulaimani. May you, O our Lord, rest his pure soul, who began with talab, with the quest, with the questions that would not stop asking. The farmer's son from a village with no library, who looked at the world and said, this is not right, this is not what God made, this can be changed. The candle was already forming in him before anyone knew it was a candle. The wax was already being poured, and the road that he would walk from Kerman to Karbala, from the quest to the witness, is the same road Imam Husayn walked out of in Medina. He did not know it yet, but the fitrah knew, the covenant knew. And you, O God, who placed the covenant in every soul before the body was made, you knew. O God, we send our peace and salutations and blessings to the martyr Imam Sayyid Ali Khamenei, who said the 12 words in the tongue of February in the rooms of an empire that thought itself permanent, to the Yazids of his century who thought themselves untouchable, and was paid the price that Imam al-Husayn was paid. The sentence is one sentence, the refusal is one refusal, and between the two mouths that spoke it, the mouth in Medina and the mouth in Tehran, stand 14 centuries, and a chain of witnesses so long that the pen cannot write every name on the roll, though the one behind the veil knows every single one. O God, we send our peace, blessings, and salutations to the Imam of our age. May our souls be his sacrifice, and may you, our beloved Lord, hasten his return. Our Imam, who carries every candle, who remembers every wick, who knows the taxonomy better than any teacher, because he is the living proof of the fifth kind of death, the one who has not died because the witness is not yet finished, because the chain is still being forged, and the permission has not yet been given, and the 313 have not yet gathered at the threshold. O God, accept from us this third night. We come to you with a word that had begun to mean something. Tonight, you have given it a taxonomy through Shaykh Motahhari. 5 kinds of death, and only one of them is alive. We ask you to keep the test in our hands. Sacred cause, conscious choice, over the 7 nights of the remaining Ashura sessions, through the break, through the 5 nights of Safar until Arba'een, so that when through all of our lives, so that when we stand at the grave of your proof on the 40th day, we stand as informed mourners, not as uninstructed ones, as witnesses, not spectators. O God, you are the one who made the candle and the night. You are the one who asked every soul, am I not your Lord? You are the one who said, do not think of them as dead. We are trying to obey. We are trying not to think of them as dead. We are trying to think of them as alive, alive with you being provided for, burning still, giving light still, illuminating the very room we're sitting in right now. Help us to see by their light, and do not let us set the candle down. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We are from God, and to him is the return. And we repeat your promise, an eternal promise for justice and a warning for the wrongdoers. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. And the wrongdoers will soon know what goal they will end up, at what goal they will end up. And from the depths of everything that we have learnt tonight, we say, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. God is sufficient for us, and he is the best of guardians. Amen, O Lord, sustainer of the universes. Amen, O most merciful of the merciful. Wa akhiru da'wani alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We now turn to our Nohe. A Nohe, for anyone new among us, is an elegy of mourning. Poetry recited and sung for Imam Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, and the martyrs of Karbala. It belongs to all of us together, not to the reciter alone. So please join your voice and your hand to it. Tonight's Nohe is Spirit of Husayn.
Take us to our graves, take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves, take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, lonely hearts, broken by the pain. Oh, every tear calls out Husayn's name. Every single kiss reminds us of Husayn's lips. Every tortured face holds a sacred place. Every tortured face holds a sacred place. Spirit of Husayn, take us into our graves, take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, tearful ones, can you see the babe? Can you see his smile, witness for a while? Can you see your sons born unto your wives? Can you hear their cries, see tears in their eyes? Can you imagine them, never seeing them again? This was a Husayn, Ali Asghar was his pain. This was a Husayn, Ali Asghar was his pain. Spirit of Husayn, take us into our graves, take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, our sweet Abbas, where are your sacred hands? Where are your shining eyes plundered upon the sands? Where is your valiant heart? Where is your sword so sharp to quench the thirst of the pure? Courageous you surely were, to quench the thirst of the pure. Courageous you surely were. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves, take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, daughter of Haydar, your sweetheart bears the scars. Oh, beloved of battle, you felt their hate so cruel. Oh, sisters in Islam, imagine yourselves in Sham. Imagine the pain and hurt displayed for that cursed dirt from the gaze of man you guard. Though the way is always hard, you're the heirs of sweet Zainab, Mujahid for hijab. You're the heirs of sweet Zainab, Mujahid for hijab. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves, take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. From Ashura to Arba'in, our hearts ache for Husayn. The suffering of Rabab, of Zainab and Sajjad. The blood flows through our veins, it's burning and full of shame. Our love of Rasulullah drags us to Karbala. Yet on which side would we stand? Would our blood fall on the sand? Yet on which side would we stand? Would our blood fall on the sand? Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. The call of our Husayn echoes from age to age. Let's die like sweet Abbas and give all for Allah's Nasr. Let our bodies be burnt and torn. Our jihad is not forlorn. Look well through our tearful eyes. Search well and we'll realize that Husayn surely survived in revolution. He's alive. That Husayn surely survived in revolution. He's alive. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. The years have passed and flown, the seed of our love is sown. The enemies they reel, for their hatred is all they feel. They burn, they kill, they maim, as their empires fall in shame. They narrate their darkened tale, but their plots and schemes will fail. The curse they bear is real, held by the Holy Seal. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. The years have passed and flown, the seed of our love is sown. The enemies they reel, for hatred is all they feel. They burn, they kill, they maim, as their empires fall in shame. They narrate their darkened tale, but their plots and schemes will fail. The curse they bear is real, held by the Holy Seal. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves.
And now, Ziyarat Ashura. To make a ziyarah is to visit. To stand before the Imam, though oceans and centuries lie between us. To greet him and pledge ourselves to him anew. Ziyarat Ashura, kept for us from the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, salutes the martyrs of that day and turns away from those who oppress them. Tonight, you will hear our poetic English rendering, every meaning preserved, every line made plain. Hear its disavowal rightly. It turns not against any community, but against the oppressors of God's witness in every age, from the first murder to Karbala. If you would like to go deeper into what the Ziyarah is and what it means, a short companion reading waits on our website. The link is in the description. Please be still and present.
Peace be upon you, O Abba Abdullah. Peace be upon you, O son of the messenger of God. Peace be upon you, O chosen of God and son of his chosen. Peace be upon you, O son of the commander of the faithful. Peace be upon you, O son of Fatima, mistress of the women of all the worlds. Peace be upon you, O blood whose claim is God's, and son of that same claim, the solitary one, his due not yet redeemed. Peace be upon you, and upon the souls that came to rest about you. Upon you all. From us, be the peace of God. For as long as we remain, and as long as night and day endure. O Abba Abdullah, immense is the calamity and bitter. Great is the wound of your loss upon us and upon all the people of Islam. Great and grievous is your affliction in the heavens upon all who dwell there. May the mercy of God be distant from a people who laid the first foundation of injustice and tyranny against you, O people of the house. May the mercy of God be distant from a people who drove you from your station and tore you from the ranks in which God himself had placed you. May the mercy of God be distant from a people who killed you, and from those who smoothed their road and gave into their hands the power to make war upon you. We disown them before God and before you, them and their partisans, their followers, their friends. We are at peace with all who are at peace with you, and at war with all who war against you, until the day of resurrection. May the mercy of God be distant from the house of Ziyad and the house of Marwan, from the clan of Umayyah, every one of them, from the son of Marjana, from Umar, son of Saad, from Shimr, and from a people who saddled their horses and bridled them and masked their faces to make war upon you. By our fathers and our mothers, for you, we would give them. Great is our grief for you, and so we ask of God, who ennobled your station and honored us through you, that he grant us to seek the requital of your blood at the side of an Imam divinely aided, from the household of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him and his family. Make us, in your sight, honored through Husayn. Peace be upon him, in this world and the next. We draw near to God and to his messenger, and to the commander of the faithful, and to Fatima, and to Hassan, and to you, through our love and loyalty to you, and through our disavowal of the one who fought you and raised against you the standard of war, and of the one who laid the first foundation of injustice and built his house upon it. We disown them before God and before you. So we ask of God, who honored us with knowing you and knowing those who love you, that he place us with you in this world and the next, that he set firm for us in your presence a footing of truth, that he bring us to the praised station that is yours with God, and that he grant us to seek our requital at the side of a guiding Imam, manifest and speaking with the truth from among you.
O God, make our living the living of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, and our dying the dying of Muhammad
and the family of Muhammad. O God, this is a day on which the clan of Umayyah rejoiced and counted itself blessed, and the son of the devourer of livers, the one cast far from mercy, son of the one cast far from mercy, upon your tongue and the tongue of your prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, in every place where your prophet stood.
O God,
let your mercy be far from Abu Sufyan and Muawiyah and Yazid son of Muawiyah, upon them from you be that exile from mercy for all the ages without end. This is a day on which the house of Ziyad and the house of Marwan rejoiced at their killing of Husayn. God's blessings be upon him.
O God,
multiply upon them the distance of your mercy and your punishment. O God, let your mercy be distant from the first who wronged the right of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, and from the last who followed him upon that road.
O God,
let your mercy be distant from the band who fought against Husayn and sided with his killing and pledged to it and followed in it.
O God,
let your mercy be distant from them, all of them. Peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah, and upon the souls that came to rest about you. Upon you from us be the peace of God, for as long as we remain, and as long as night and day endure. And may God never make this the last of our covenant with you, the last of our coming to you. Peace be upon Husayn, and upon Ali son of Husayn, and upon the children of Husayn, and upon the companions of Husayn. O God, single out the first oppressor for the distance of your mercy from us. Begin with him, first of all, then the second, the third, the fourth. O God, let your mercy be distant from Yazid the fifth, and from Ubaidullah son of Ziyad, and the son of Marjana, and Umar son of Saud, and Shimr, and the house of Abu Sufyan, and the house of Ziyad, and the house of Marwan, until the day of resurrection. O God, to you belongs all praise, the praise of those who give thanks to you even in their affliction. All praise is God's for the immensity of our sorrow. Grant us the intercession of Husayn on the day we come before you, and set firm for us a footing of truth in your presence, with Husayn and the companions of Husayn, those who poured out their very lifeblood for Husayn, peace be upon him.
With that, our third night draws to a close. Thank you, sincerely, for your presence in your hearts. And before our closing prayer, if this night gave you something, passing it on, a subscribe, a like, a share, carries further than you know. May God accept what we have offered, count us among the witnesses, and grant us the kind of death that lights a way for others. And may He preserve and guide our Wali al-Faqih, Imam Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei. May God protect him until the day of the awaited one. Tonight, Imam Husayn, peace and blessings be upon him, said his farewell. And a farewell is always to someone we call brother. So once more, we leave you with the question, where is your brother? Good night, and may God keep you.